we're having the same conversations we've had weeks and weeks and weeks worth. But it's like anyone listening to us is like going, this is where they do the Snyder rag, and here's where they jump on JJ. Jump on JJ, by the way, is one of my favorite games. I used to do that at birthday parties. Okay, kids, it's time for Jump on JJ. Yay! Yay!
How's it going there, Mr. Jones?
It's going well. I will explain the hoodie. I'm wearing the hoodie for 2 reasons. What do you...
I'm counting.
Oh, I didn't know what that was. And they were like going, "Are you?" But hold on. But hold on. That's what I look like. The 2 reasons are, 1, crazy bedhead, and I don't want, it's nuts.
Tell me about it.
And 2, I haven't finished my manifesto yet, so I'm still working on it.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing my Unabomber. Come on.
Yeah.
It's also my Marvel hoodie, and it's nice and warm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So what do we have in the docket today? We've got that new James Gunn DCU story that dropped a few days ago, which is pretty fascinating. Again, like, I mean, we talked about this on the show a few episodes ago. We started off the show speculating about the DCEU, not having any idea that James Gunn was about to be hired to do whatever he's about to do.
That was like the day after we talked about it.
Right.
Like, what? Oh, what? Hey.
And then the speculation continued. Are they going to reboot? And just to give you brief catch up, listeners, Brendan and I are pretty much in full agreement that the DCU should be fully rebooted if they really want to do something special with it.
Because I talked to, we always mention these people. We mention Jerry a lot because he's a friend of ours. Yeah. I mention John a lot because we podcast together every week, and you've listened to plenty of those, so it's like John. And John, he's got very educated opinions about comics and comics film. And I did, because we had talked, that I talked to John about this, and I was like, yeah, I think they're doing what I said. It's like, I think they're just wiping the slate clean. And he goes, no, I don't think it's that. Well, I mean, it is true that we're hearing a lot of rumor, because literally he hasn't said Cavill is out. However, the scrapping of Wonder Woman 3, which hadn't really, it was in the early stages. And pretty much it does seem like he's saying, let's start over. Let's start fresh. They might keep Cavill. I like Cavill. Give him a good Superman movie. I think it will suck and not be good optics, because the internet was all excited. Yeah. Cavill's coming back. But if you have that guy, he quit the job at The Witcher to do Superman, and then to have James Gunn go, thanks, Henry, we don't really need your services.
Yeah, about that.
That will suck, and it will not be good PR.
What I think would be nice, and I say this as somebody who's not a fan,
is like an edible arrangement, like one of those like big cookie things with something written on it, and maybe those the candy flowers.
Yes,
that
but
would
also,
be nice. Oh, you're talking about something else.
I did not like Man of Steel or be Superman, right? As listeners of this show know already. But I do think it would be nice, because we saw the direction that they've already hinted at, the direction that they're going to go if they do make another Man of Steel movie. I think it would be nice if they are going to move on from Henry Cavill's incarnation of the character, to give him a one more movie to sunset, and also to kind of have just put a button on the whole Snyder era. But I would not blame James Gunn and Peter Safran if they don't want to do that. But I think it would be nice.
I mean, it seems drastic, but to people like myself who feel, he did say, and it's not, I'm paraphrasing, but it was a direct James Gunn quote where he said, because again, he's being asked lots of questions, because everything that dropped seems pretty drastic and amazing. But he said, I want to fix what didn't work. And so he's basically saying, like, look, I understand people are fans. There are people that loved all this stuff. And it's not that I'm anti-Snyder. He goes, I just want to fix what didn't work. And he's basically saying, he's got his own vision. Yeah. And I have a feeling that unless he takes it in a totally wacky direction, which I I have a little bit of a fear of that, but I don't think he will do that.
No.
I think he is smart enough as a creator to say every project should fit the character, should not fit the director's vision. A la Snyder said, this is my Superman. He ain't your daddy's Superman. Man, I'm making this dude awesome. I think make the talent, the directors that they will choose, the writers they will choose, the actors they will choose, service the character, because any fan of the character will appreciate that. That will equal box office. That's one thing that Marvel has done very well. Even when it meant firing someone like Edgar Wright, who is an amazing director, Kevin Feige going, this is going to be too Edgar Wright, and I need this to be an Ant-Man movie. And so I know that some people rankle at that, especially film students and so forth. Make movies your own movies. Certainly, if you're a director person out there, do them. If you are servicing these characters, which I don't like calling them IP. Yes, I know they are IP, but they've been around for so long, most of these, that they deserve your respect. And that's the problem, is we don't want to reinvent the wheel. What we want is a fucking awesome wheel.
Yes.
So it's like, in other words, give me Superman. Give me that guy. And put the sign verisimilitude above your desk, like Donner did, and just make a Batman movie that's awesome. Like the Batman was pretty much exactly what I wanted, with nitpicks here or there. And do the same with each character. And if you're going to have them meet, work it out, because it can be. It's been done in the comics. This is just what we said before. And I think that's what Gunn is doing, or at least that's what he has in mind, is starting fresh. And it will piss those Snyder bros off like crazy.
That was one thing he said in his Twitter response, which was really cool. He did that. He responded to the article on Twitter. What he said, in case you're not familiar, he said, well, some things are true, some things are not true. Some things are half true. Some things we haven't decided if it's true yet or not. So it's like, take your pick. It's still totally speculative.
I really like the way he, in one of his responses, because, people are out there getting their Twitter likes and so forth by speculating, but sounding like they know. And he was like, insiders? Like a question mark. He goes, it's just the two of us in a room. He goes, outside of me and him, there are no insiders. It's like, unless a delivery guy who brought us lunch was listening at the door. This is not what he actually said, but I mean, it's that kind of thing. It's like, there's no one else that knows what we're actually considering. Right. So take that with a grain of salt when you hear people going, oh man, Gal Gadot looking for work. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, I hope he saved up because he's never wearing that Black Adam suit again. I'm really curious still about The Flash, if it's even going to be released.
I know.
Because what a waste of money. What a waste of Michael Keaton's return to the suit. But Ezra Miller, man, that's
there's that. And there's still the Aquaman movie. It's coming out at the end of next year.
The only two I think that are guaranteed is Shazam 2, because, trailer's already out, and Blue Beetle is guaranteed.
Right.
And I'm really looking forward to Blue Beetle. I wish I was more excited for Shazam 2.
Do you think they might even scrap the Aquaman movie? Isn't that in post-production now?
Yeah. I think maybe, because pre-Gunn, there was all that jibber-jabber about that movie was almost finished, but they went back for reshoots to get Ben Affleck's Batman in there because they were bringing him back. And now they're like going, maybe we're just going to cut all of that out and not worry about having Ben Affleck and just do Aquaman 2. But I don't know. No one knows.
Yeah. The more I think about it, and just seeing what they've done so far and what he's saying too, he's still being very, coy, and for
of
good
course,
reason.
He has to be.
But if I were him, and this all depends on what kind of freedom he and Safran have been given. But think that they've do.
If you were him, would you dye your hair, or would you leave it that luscious, like old man white he's got?
No, I would leave it like your beard. I would just say, hey, this is me.
I have dyed this. I don't want to embarrass myself on for the 8 listeners, but before some of our shows, I have done the just for men. It doesn't go black or anything, but yeah, it is so white. And I'm like, I'm only 53, he said, for another few months. And it's like, look, sometimes I want it a little bit darker because I'm a fat guy and a white beard, and it's this time of year. I don't want children sitting on my lap and telling me what they want.
My way of dealing is I just shave it all off. I wouldn't be able to.
Have you never? You've had.
I'm almost totally white. The hair of it.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, a little bit of my mustache, a little darker in my mustache.
You dallied with facial hair, didn't you?
Here and there, yes.
Yeah.
I've
your eyebrows don't have I've got salt and pepper eyebrows now too. At the very least, yours are just kind of solid, but these are got white streaks in them, and I'm like, dude, should I just? I'll just dye my hair blinding white, and I'll be Roy Batty and Blade Runner.
Yeah, no, I think James Gunn's white hair looks freaking cool.
It does. It's and he's got it all shocked up. That's the way to do it.
But anyway, if I were him and Safran, this is kind of the chance of a lifetime. It's what a lot of people have been waiting for. Is they have a chance to really do it right from I keep saying ground zero from the get go. They can do anything they want, I would assume, going forward. And why not?
As long as it makes money.
Because we were speculating before we knew Gunn was coming on. We were speculating, could they reboot the DCU using Matt Reeves as Batman, as a foundation. Yeah. And I don't think they're going to do that. And now I'm kind of thinking they shouldn't, not because it couldn't work. I do think, to again, I know it's a controversial topic, but I do think it could work.
Easy.
We've talked about tone and stuff. It could, but I think it would be better. Why not just totally clean now? Just let Gunn do the Batman he wants to do. Let Matt Reeves keep his universe.
You're preaching to the choir because the Penguin series is already filming, so Matt Reeves' universe is probably going to continue to be Matt Reeves' universe. And that's fine because I really enjoyed what he did with Batman. Whether or not it ends up being Pattinson meeting the rest of the Justice League someday under Gunn, who knows? But I agree. Multiverse has been introduced, and audiences are really, I was talking about this with John, even non-comics fans, they're really not thrown by it. It's like they will go see a Batman movie and not worry about this nonsense. I'll be like, oh, this is the Joker in this one. Oh, I like this Joker. Yeah. It's like, okay. They don't have to sit there going, oh, no, wait, this doesn't match up to the continuity of the previous. They don't care. For one thing, we've all seen 85 James Bonds.
I know.
So I agree with you. I always say keys to the kingdom. You're talking about, starting over fresh. I sit there going, that's what Snyder was given. And Snyder did his thing with the keys to the kingdom. It's just exactly what I didn't want, pretty much. There's some amazing action sequences. I mean, Batman's a badass in parts of Justice League. There are moments, and we've talked about that Superman scene with the Flash. I mean, that's pretty great. But
sure, yeah.
There are little moments I enjoyed. There were moments in Man of Steel. I'm like, oh, that's not. Yeah. But those are few and far between.
Right. Yeah.
It's just he got the keys to the kingdom. And I felt he squandered them on trying to broify or badass the DC universe, which doesn't need it. The characters are both badass, but they're also wondrous and hopeful. Even the badass like Batman is a character about hope. Reeves got that. At the end of it, you have Batman helping flood victims. I'm like, come on, it
was such a nice touch. Yeah. It was more than a touch. I mean, that was basically one of the major premises.
Yeah, the big points is you can't just be this fearsome thing to criminals. You also have to be a symbol of hope for the you don't want to scare the innocent. It's like, that's not your job. You're protecting them. And I was like, good point. Good point, Mr. Reeves. And I applauded like this in the theater.
There's so many things I'm excited for with him, what he might do. And years ago, I thought that after I seen Guardians of the Galaxy, and what a great, it is goofy, but it's got a lot of heart, and it's just good writing and stuff.
I got to say, the first 10 minutes of that are almost as emotionally hard as the first 10 minutes of Up. You know, anytime you have like instant death kind of thing, you're like, wow.
What is the opening? I can't remember. I'm trying to remember. Is it Gamora? Is that no?
The opening is his mom.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Thank you.
And you see young Peter Quill, and she's dying, and he's so upset, but also scared. And she's like, "Just hold my hand. Just hold my hand, Peter." And he can't bring himself to do it, and that's very real. I mean, he loves her, but he's too scared. So he runs out of the hospital and then immediately gets abducted by Yondu and the Ravagers. So you're like, that's great.
That is his brilliance, is that he there's a lot of goofiness in that.
There's a lot of heart in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah. But you're right that he established that foundation of the seriousness, or the the realness of these characters that's underneath their bravado.
And there are surprisingly touching moments in Peacemaker. Yeah, he's a good creator, and his preference, or the thing he leans on, his strength, is an absurdist viewpoint. Like he did say like, look, to me, he goes, I love that big article he wrote around the time of Peacemaker where I guess it was an interview, and he said, I love superheroes with all my heart, but they're also the stupidest thing ever invented. And he said the thing that summed it up was, he goes, the scene in Peacemaker where he walks into that restaurant and he's in his full costume, and the other guys are like, Jesus, man, no chill at all. It's like, what? He goes, what? This is my uniform. Yeah. And he goes, that is what it would be like.
Yeah. That's a little touch of verisimilitude.
Yeah, that touch of verisimilitude. Just like Superman the movie, you still have a pimp going, say, Jim,
bad outfit,
whoa, that's a bad outfit. People have to comment.
Yeah.
You do see a man fly, which would freak you out, but you would also in the back of your mind go, he is wearing form-fitting Lycra. I think I can see his junk. And what's with the cape? Like, capes? What's that about?
That's what I love about that scene is the two woos that you talk about that actor gets.
Oh yeah, he gets two woos.
He's watching him fly up, but it still seems like he's just more reacting to the outfit than the fact that he's flying.
It's not like, I don't care that he just took off into the sky. I'm like, red, blue, yellow.
That's a nice outfit.
Woo! Who's your tailor? Woo!
But this is why I'm excited for Green Lantern under this new.
Green Lantern is such a goddamn great character,
because
he needs respect.
Yeah, it's also he's kind of a very weird, strange character with a strange backstory, strange origin, and strange powers. That I don't know if Gunn would wind up directing that one. I think he should. I think he should direct Green Lantern. But I can't wait. Let's just see that.
Of course.
I cannot wait.
Well, aren't they still doing well, no, I bet they've shut that down too. They got very close to doing a Green Lantern Corps HBO Max show.
Oh.
And it was going to focus on Jon Stewart. Or no, maybe it was Guy Gardner. But it was going to be like an actual weekly show that dealt with the entire Corps.
Oh,
which
neat.
Is kind of the pitch. When I'm going back to my Green Lantern thing, when I was trying to sell it, or at least tell my manager to try and sell it back when I was in LA, I kept saying, I know it seems a little out there, but I said, it's just Superman meets cops. I mean, I was like going, it's Star Wars as a police procedural. That's it. It's alien police force is the idea. And are their powers weird? Yeah. But the great thing about it, the reason I chose that character, I've never written a Superman script because the character means too much to me and I'm not sure I'd do it well and whatever. But Green Lantern is such a natural, I thought, way back in the 90s, because effects have gotten to that point. Where, he's a space cop whose ring can make anything. So the visuals, anything you can imagine. I had a scene in mind where he goes up against, at one point, it's not a major part, but he's stopping some drug smugglers in a plane, and he uses his ring to make a giant can opener that
yes, I remember that. Yeah.
That opens the plane in mid-flight. And I'm like going, because you can. That's the great thing. Visually, he should be the most awesome cinematic superhero of all time. And all of his buddies, all of his fellow cops, every kind of alien you can imagine.
Yeah.
There were parts of that terrible movie. I mean, I was like, that's good casting on Sinestro. He looks great as Sinestro. And I was like, Kilowog looks pretty good. And Michael Clark Duncan doing the voice, great. I was like, they look good. Tomar Ree, all the main ones, I'm like, yeah, great.
Sure.
But it's just in service of a terrible script.
Yeah. That was the best part of the film was when he gets to Io, right? Sorry. I'm going to say
with the Guardians and
the whole training, the training sequences
Guardians
and stuff.
of the Universe, sorry.
Right. The training stuff I thought was great. Yeah. And like you said, Kilowog and Sinestro, I thought were perfectly cast and realized. And
I will say they didn't shy away from the character. It's just, again, bad script. And the director was like, I'm not really much of a superhero fan. I was like, well, by all means, you should be helming this. You should be helming this.
Yeah.
I will say that some of the Marvel directors, they usually pick people that are like, all right, maybe I didn't grow up with this stuff, but I learned what was awesome about it. Sure. They've got really good taste as far as who they pick. And that's a Feige thing. Right. John and I are of the opinion that Gunn and Safran together make one Kevin Feige, because Kevin Feige is a unicorn that you're never going to find again. A guy who's not only the diehard fan, knowledgeable diehard fan, who also is a really good producer, who knows how this stuff needs to work on a technical, financial, all these sides. So you're like going, that's just never going to happen again. But DC, or at least Warner's, has made a smart decision. They have found a guy who's the business dude and the guy who's the creative guy who loves this shit.
Yeah.
So hopefully together they make a Feige. And like you said, I am cautiously excited about the future of the DCEU. Even though John still wants them to not scrap everything. And I'm like, no, I actually think it's the way to go.
Yeah, and this is why I think Gunn did say something I think it's in his Twitter thread, his Twitter post about this, where he said something like, we can't please everybody, sort of thing. Some fans are going to be disappointed no matter what we do. And that seemed to be, this is speculation again, but I think he's addressing the Snyder fans. Like, sorry guys, it's not going to go the way you think or you're hoping, unfortunately.
I brought this up with John as well. Did you see that? Well, I mean, I try not to go on Twitter anymore, thanks to Mr. Musk and all the people that are back on Twitter. Oh, that's great. Let's open those people up again. But there are groups of Snyder fans that are organized, and they feel very empowered because they got their, Snyder cut. So now they were starting some sort of campaign where it was like, was it anti whatever the next DCEU movie, or maybe it was anti whatever the first James Gunn movie for DC? Don't go see it. We're all going to not go see it. We're going to teach them a lesson. It's like, don't give them your money till they give us Snyder back. And I think it was Gail Simone, the comics writer, and she's great. She's a great comics writer, and she's very smart, very funny. And her response was, what is with you people? It's just exactly that. She's like, where does this hate come from? Or the weird club mentality. It's like, he's the only one that should touch those characters. And I just love her going, what is your deal? Yeah. Wishing, it's like, people work on these movies and hopefully they get paid for them, but it's not you just saying, take that. We're going to sit in a corner and go until we get another Snyder movie. It's like, support the characters.
Yeah.
You can be disappointed. I've gone to see, with the exception of Batman v Superman, I've gone to see every DC movie and always wanted it to be good. It's like, come on. And I've mildly enjoyed like 3 of them.
Uh-huh.
And was And I still think casting is pretty good. Like I said before, I like Zachary Levi as Captain Marvel, and I will call him Captain Marvel. He's a good casting choice. The movies aren't, or that movie wasn't that great. Momoa, I like him, not necessarily as Aquaman, but I just like that guy, and so I found Aquaman fairly entertaining. Gal Gadot is luminous and just lights up a screen, and I really enjoyed Wonder Woman 1 and mildly liked Wonder Woman 1984, and it's not all bad. Black Adam I found to be passably entertaining.
Wow.
It's just it's all by comparison. They all look like crap next to Marvel.
Yeah. Well, it's just a big cluttered mess, and I would think that's what they want to correct, and you can't really do that unless you clear the slate. You know. Yeah. Could they keep Cavill? Sure, but it's just going to be weird if he's around in playing a different version of Superman. You know.
Yeah, it's like it would be great, and you have someone else completely different show up as General Zod and just not even have him mention anything. Right. It's like, I'll stop you, General Zod. I don't know how you got out of the Phantom Zone. And then all the audience is going, isn't that the character whose neck he snapped?
Right.
How did the dead man come back, and why is he now played by someone who isn't Michael Shannon? Yeah. Who, by the way, was a great General Zod. Great choice.
Sure.
In a terrible movie.
This was and speaking of somebody who I quote him a lot because I love his show, John Campea.
Would you stop with that? Jesus. Is he paying you? Is he paying you?
He's just, I love the guy because he's just really, really good at what he does. But he's notoriously a huge defender of Man of Steel. But he's also, in recent shows I've seen him, a big supporter of rebooting DCU at this point. Even as much as he would love to see another Man of Steel, it's like, if this is the way they're going and it's a better way to go, they've kind of got to send Henry Cavill on his way, as much as I love the guy. But he and Robert Meyer Burnett were in agreement that they think it would be cool to start this new thing with a Justice League movie. Like, don't do the individual films first. Just start with an ensemble film.
Isn't that kind of, in a way... Well, if they're starting completely fresh, then absolutely. Why not? And you'll have already, because they're planning these things in advance, you'll have already set up the individual movies with directors before you do this. But it would be a great way to introduce them all. It's like, here you go. And we won't worry about backstory as to, or maybe there's a quick shot of like, remember that time we all met? Great, let's keep going. We have to fight Starro the Conqueror. But they actually already did Starro and the Suicides. Oh, wait, it won't matter. So who knows? Yeah. I mean, I think it would be good. I always say the Marvel Cinematic Universe obviously was happenstance, but it looks like an excellent design. Start with like the C-string character, but do a really great movie, and then just link them for a little bit before you do your team movie. But at this point, we're late in the day. The race has already been run by Marvel, so maybe do a kick-ass Justice League movie that forces everyone to go, oh, this is just our new versions.
Yeah, and I was skeptical because they rushed into Justice League so quickly with the Snyder stuff. But that was the Snyder stuff. And the example that they were presenting, which I thought maybe kind of think, oh, maybe they're right. Because at first I was like, no, you've got to do Superman and Batman and all stuff first before you do that. But they just pointed out, just by way of example, like movies, ensemble cast movies like Star Wars and Guardians of the Galaxy, Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad, I should say. These movies that really set up an ensemble cast really well and make you care about it.
Well, I will say that's another strength of Gunn's, which wouldn't surprise me if they do start with Justice League, is he gets ensemble stuff really well. Even Peacemaker, which is about that titular character, he wasn't just going to have Peacemaker, John Cena, running around. So he filled it with all these great supporting characters. The government guys working with him, and Vigilante, still not my favorite take on that character. But anyway, it was all how they play off each other informs each character. And that's the way it should always be. I still think for a long time, Justice League, Marvel as a comic company from the 60s on, one of the great things was making the characters very individual. Therefore, they could really play off each other. It's like you knew from their voice, Peter Parker speaks differently than Benjamin J. Grimm, the Thing. And you're like, great, these are all different characters. It took DC a long time to figure that out. DC, their characters, as awesome as Superman and Batman were, from the 60s and the 70s, their characters are virtually, other than the powers and the costumes, they're all like in Justice League. You'd read it. It's great. Would you get the dog out of there? But it's just them going, they speak exactly the same. It's like, you two team up and go get that sacred object. We'll go get that sacred object and we'll meet up at the end and fight this guy. It was, I think Mark Waid wrote Justice League Year One. Did you ever read that? That's from the 90s.
No, I don't think so.
He was probably the first one to redo an origin of the classic Justice League, where he did give them all very specific individual personalities. And so that's where Hal Jordan becomes like, he's the cocky test pilot. And why is he friends with the Flash, which they were always famously friends? They're very different. That's the reason they're friends. Barry Allen is very bookish and nerdy, but Hal can't help but love that guy. Aquaman is really socially awkward because he spent so much time in Atlantis. He doesn't even know how to pitch his voice because sound travels differently underwater. So they're all like going, you're going to have to speak up, man. And he's like, oh, sorry. Was I muttering again? And it's like all of them have personalities and you're like, this is great. And it was, and John Jones, Martian Manhunter. This was, of course, them without Superman or Batman being original members. So it was just that core. And instead of Wonder Woman, Black Canary, who replaced her as being the founding female member. But it just worked so well. And I'm like, that's the way to do it. If you're going to do it, James Gunn knows how to write disparate personalities having to work together. He did it great in, obviously, Guardians. He did it great in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
So if he decides to go a Justice League route to launch it, I'll be the first in line.
Not a bad idea, actually. No. It makes me think, too, of we've talked about Teen Titans before with the early 1980s run with George Perez. That started off with an ensemble, group. And then it split off into the annual, the special, the individual character ones.
It's true, because they did introduce new characters. Now, it's not like Robin or Wonder Girl or Kid Flash needed any, or even, Beast Boy, who was reading Doom Patrol, except for me, back in the day. Right. But those characters were so established. But it was great to be introduced. Boom. Issue 1 of New Teen Titans. Who the fuck is Raven? She's mysterious. Who the fuck is a Starfire? She's hot. Who the fuck is Cyborg? He's awesome and sad. And then they all got their individual spinoffs, and you're like going, that was a great way to do it. Because we have comfortable, familiar characters that we can go, oh, I know everything I need to know about these guys. But watching them interact with these newbies, and they were brought together by Raven. So the early issues are all about, why did you get us together? What is this about? You have to stop my demon father. Okay, great. Let's do that. Mm-hmm. That was great. I'm glad that we're in agreement.
Changeling to me.
Oh, I know.
I love it.
But he was originally Beast Boy.
I know. Changeling.
Then he was Changeling, and then he's back to being Beast Boy.
Yeah.
And then I think people just call him Gar. Garfield Logan.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do love classic Doom Patrol, so yay. Yeah, so I'm glad we're in agreement on how they should fix things. And again, my phone is listed. If Mr. Gunn needs to give me a call, I'm here. I know it's got to be a burden. You're trying to figure out what to do with the DCEU. I'm here to help.
Yeah.
And I might even take the hood down just for you, James.
Yeah.
Anywho, so I'm excited for that. And it is all just rumor now. It's all just rumor.
Right. On the question of rebooting, and this is something I unfortunately, there's another franchise that I think
I'll
should
reboot
entertain
you
this
right
idea.
in the ass.
Well, you mentioned on one of the early shows that you wish that they could just redo the Star Wars prequels, like maybe as an animated thing or something, just to tell the story better.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of people like us who would like them to just scrap the sequels. Redo those.
I think there's even been hints that they're thinking about doing that.
You think so?
I've heard rumors on that. I will say, if they did that, it would be a shame to write out of existence those characters, though. I never found a problem.
They don't have to. Yeah.
No, I never found a problem with the characters. I never found I loved Rey, Finn, Poe. These are great characters. It's just, you don't start a trilogy without a map. You don't. And they had no map. And it's just, I thought the first two, and I am going to read that script. John has read the script that they abandoned that was going to be the third movie.
Script. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't read it, but apparently it's so great that I wonder, why didn't J.J. Abrams just say, well, I'll tinker, but we'll use that. But I think it's because he got paid to be a writer and director.
Right. It was definitely more respectful of Last Jedi. As much as Trevorrow was not in agreement with Johnson with what he did with the characters. I remember reading a report that he was pissed off that they killed Luke. He's like, no, wait. What are you doing? That may have been one of the reasons why he eventually left the project, that he was like, damn it.
Well, but also he left the project because they said they weren't going to use that script. So, it wasn't him going, I leave. He was like, I don't like that decision. And they're like, well, we're still looking for, we're going to let JJ do it. And then JJ's like, I don't need his script. I got this. Palpatine. She's a Palpatine. Tappy, tap, 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 tappy, tap. And Kylo Ren is now kind of a good guy again. Tappy tap. Ooh, they almost kiss. Tappy tap tap. Now they do kiss. And I'm like, no, none of us wanted that. Also, Finn and Poe are regulated to side stories, and Rose is nearly forgotten entirely. Tappy tap tap. I have to introduce female love interests for both of them so people don't get the mistaken impression that they're gay for each other. Tappy tap tap. And I'm sitting there going, almost every decision. What's interesting is that I can find good in almost everything, and there are moments in that movie. I mean, it's ridiculous, but the whole force battle of like, I can pull that ship down. No, I can make it. It's like, okay, that's kind of badass to watch. But there are a few things, like with Man of Steel, where almost every decision is wrong. In my opinion. And I sit there going, no. Don't do this.
There's and this is my thing with J.J. Abrams too, that he's great, like Gunn, he's great at directing ensemble casts and casting people who have great chemistry.
Agreed.
He's got that down. But when it comes to actually telling, he has problems. He's really fond of telling sci-fi setting stories, but he needs to work on that more, because he's not very respectful of what it is that makes sci-fi great. He's more into action, which I understand, and Star Wars is more action than it is sci-fi. It's technically not really sci-fi, but George Lucas,
science fantasy.
Yeah, but George Lucas had rules. His universe had rules that needed to be obeyed in order for the story to remain cohesive. Mm-hmm. And hyperspace was a big deal. You couldn't just hyperspace anywhere at any time whenever you wanted to. It was a process, just like it says the very first movie. It's not like dusting crops, boy. But then we got J.J. Abrams.
Does that mean Han knows what dusting crops is like? When did Han dust crops? That's a new thing. I'm going to do that. That'll be my Disney Plus series, is young Han Solo dusting crops. He's like, shit, I bet hyperspace travel's easier than this.
Right.
Sorry.
But there was a lot of that, even in Force Awakens, like with the way that's the whole idea of Starkiller Base was too much. But the way it manages to blow up 5 planets and another system, like in the other end of the galaxy from where it is, and then everybody witnesses it from wherever they are, like the Takodana, whatever the planet is where Maz's cantina is. They all look up at the sky and see these planets blowing up in a completely different star system. Like, no, JJ, no, that's not how this works. And then I didn't read the novel, but I read about this. I think it was actually a very experienced sci-fi writer who took over the novelization of Force Awakens, who had to come up with an explanation. Like, oh, damn it. It broke the space-time continuum. So therefore, like, it was visible from many spots over the galaxy. Like, he had to figure out some way to explain it.
An easier explanation would have been that the First Order, that was the new thing. the better explanation would have been just that the First Order was able to broadcast it to atmosphere.
That would have made more sense.
Because,
that too.
In other words, like giant holographic thing, because that way they're advertising it. That's like, fear us. Look what we just fucking did.
But they could have easily just had it be on the news or the HoloNet thing, or people gathering around.
They could have done that. I still think it could have just been up in the sky. I mean, it's science fiction, whatever. It's like, shoot that to their, so no one on the planet misses it. Everywhere you look up, you're seeing a big broadcast.
That would be cool. That would be cool. But
and then you see like somebody's thumb in the picture, like, get your thumb away from the camera. Oh, sorry. This gigantic planet-wide thumb just comes in. I mean, there's always a dumb explanation you can come up with, but that is wrong. I think JJ's thing is he does one fan fiction-y. He has one fan fiction-y idea that works really well, and then it should always be like future installments should be passed on to, because he did do a great job on Star Trek. I think he did a really good job of a reset with The Force Awakens. But I think he has one idea per franchise, and he gets it out, and it is always fan fiction, because Star Trek is fan fiction of, I'm going to do the classic thing and how they all meet. It's my origin story. It's great. It did. It worked fine. And same with Force Awakens. But that guy's second, his follow-ups are always terrible. So let him do the first one and get the fuck out.
Yeah, I know.
Because Star Trek Into Darkness, I'm like, Jesus Christ, you don't jump to Wrath of God. We're having the same conversations we've had weeks and weeks and weeks worth. But it's like, anyone listening to us is like going, this is where they do the Snyder rag, and here's where they jump on JJ. Jump on JJ, by the way, is one of my favorite games. I used to do that at birthday parties. Okay, kids, it's time for Jump on JJ. Yay! Yay!
Yeah. Shit. What was I going to say?
I don't know.
Yeah, you already mentioned it, that the biggest problem with the sequels was that they had no plan.
Yeah.
But that kind of highlights the fact that as much as I enjoyed Force Awakens when it came out, I'm a little disdainful of it now because of where it went. Because you could, people who don't like Last Jedi, and I'm one of those people. I like things about it. I was disappointed in it. I accepted where it was headed. Unfortunately, it didn't continue in that direction.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with them saying, well, I guess Luke Skywalker has to die now, that was set up because of what JJ did in Force Awakens. Like, how do you explain why somebody who cares this much about the universe or the galaxy and his family is just completely shut himself off on this other planet while this shit's going on? How do you explain that? Ryan did his best to try to explain that. And that was JJ's fault. They should have, but JJ didn't know. He's like, here's what's happening. Yeah, no, you figure it out. It'll be great. And he's probably going, oh, shit. That's not exactly what I had in mind. Damn it. But that was the problem. But it's like, you can't place the blame squarely on Ryan.
Well, there are other ways you could have gone with it. And sure, I do understand people's disappointment, but I did kind of like the message. And the message isn't don't meet your heroes or that your heroes are going to let you down. It's just that chosen one mythology is so pat. Like the guiding light can't be assailed. Even Arthurian mythos has, King Arthur falls into a funk and the entire kingdom degrades because of the wounds he suffered, and then he gets taken down like a chump by his own illegitimate bastard son. Mordred takes King Arthur down. King Arthur doesn't have most of those myths. They do have a twilight of the character. If you had Luke being this successful, like, yes, the Academy is growing. Look at all these wonderful Jedi. Welcome, Rey. Yes, I will fight with you. I don't think that would have satisfied me either. I found their treatment of Luke bittersweet, but I didn't find it blasphemous. And I did like the whole thing of Yoda's Force Ghost going, he goes, the Force and Jedi is not about those books. It's about what we've taught. And you just have to make sure that it continues. And you've now taught Rey. She can make that continue. And I like that, where that's actually a stab at organized religion too. It's like, it's not about the Bible. It's about the lessons. It's about this. It's like you take the moral lessons and you keep that going. So there were things I really liked. I'm a defender. I don't think it's perfect by any means. And boy, I would have edited some of it, but
it's like about people had like, I don't like what they did. They didn't like Luke having a crisis of faith, which is essentially what was going on with him. And I understand that, but I do, it is still kind of this. Mark Hamill himself was not happy with the way his character was portrayed. And it's like, that's a problem. If Mark Hamill himself doesn't like what he's doing, you got a problem. And they should have taken that more seriously. I know that he doesn't write the scripts, but that was the first red flag I think that they should have paid attention to in the pre-production of this. But
it is true that you'd want to kind of take a survey of where people see their characters going, because they know them better than anybody, except for, I think, Harrison was totally fine with them killing Han Solo.
That was the thing.
Like,
I don't like it.
Damn it, just let me out of this thing. Okay, my son kills me. All right. And I got to say, the worst thing about that third movie was they never established a good villain. I mean, Snoke was interesting, but we never got to know him well enough. And Kylo Ren being a Darth Vader fanboy is a good idea, but you have to make that a real thing. And their wishy-washy thing with him, especially in that third movie, I'm like, there's no redemption arc for the guy who killed his father.
No,
I was really angry at that. I'm like, there's no redemption arc for a guy who killed Han Solo.
No,
like,
it should have been,
and is responsible for the death of his mother. He's responsible for Leia's death.
They should have treated it the same way Darth Vader was, where he the last second it was kind of what they did, but they went a little too far with them kissing and all that stuff. And
Jesus Christ,
it was so ridiculous. But that scene where he finally turns back to the light, where he sees the memory of his father, that was in that scene, I was just really reminded of one of the big mistakes that JJ made, and that's that he should have, because it was one of the things that Brian set up that I really loved was in that final scene where it's finally revealed that Luke's not there when he's battling Kylo, or standing off against Kylo.
Yeah,
and Kylo suddenly realizes that he's been tricked, and that
I love that.
Not that actually, great. It's great. And then Luke says, "See you around, kid," and he fades away. And I like, ooh, that made you. That was one of the big promises that Ryan left for the next guy. Is like, here you go, you can do anything you want with this. And JJ did nothing with it, nothing. Yep. And Trevorrow had that. It was one of the things in Trevorrow's script that throughout the film, Luke is haunting Kylo and giving him shit. That's okay, but with that scene where the memory of his dad shows up, that should have been Luke appearing and saying, "Hey kid, I know you don't want to talk, but hear me out. You've got a chance here.
Listen to your Uncle Luke.
Rey needs you right now. Go and do the right thing." And that could have fulfilled his promise of the original film.
I know she's hot, but no kissy. No kissy.
And this was the moment that I was already not liking the film up until the end of it, but I'd heard rumors that Dennis Lawson was going to come back as Wedge at some point, which I was really hoping for the first one. God damn it! Why didn't they give us Wedge? So that final stupid battle at the end, where there's like every ship in the universe is showing up, and I was like, okay, where's Wedge? Where's Wedge? And then all of a sudden, you get one shot, and he's on the turret, one of the turrets of the Falcon. He says, "Okay, Lando, let's go. Let's get these guys." And I uncontrollably just went, "Oh!" But then we never saw him again. That was it.
I know.
No dialogue with any other characters. And I was like, and I just sat there steaming for the rest of the film. I was like, you fucking assholes. God damn you.
See, a lot of your issues, which I do get, a lot of your issues are going directly to the heart of a guy who saw those original movies at 7, just like I was, like at 7 or 8, we saw the first one, and we've all had fan ideas of what we would really, really want. And yes, I would have loved to have seen a little bit of the in-between moments too. I still think that just, the clapping everybody on the shoulders after the thing is hokey, but at the same time, I want that more than anything, because you want your characters to be on the other side of it and be humans and just be happy, and it's very fulfilling. But Wedge always deserved more than just like, hey, I'm here. How you doing? Everybody's just showing up. I mean, Lando got more to do, a little bit, and it was great to see him back. But I mean, like, is it just fan service, or you could actually do story with it?
They could have, and this is one of the reasons I think that
Wedge
they should
could have been one of the generals with General Leia. He could have been right next to her, going like,
exactly.
And he could have said, "We've been through this before, and what do you think, General?" And it's like, well, let's look at this. Yeah, he could have been there from the get go. Maybe he's a really bad actor. And maybe he's not as talented as his nephew.
No, I've seen him in other stuff. He is actually really, really, really good.
Well, then what's their problem?
They're idiots, man. It was one of many missed opportunities. I think he was offered a part in Force Awakens, but it was going to be a tiny role, and Dennis Lawson rightly turned it down. So then I guess they sweet talked him, and he comes back for literally like a 3-second shot. And that it wasn't just that the fact is, I only got 3 seconds of Wedge. It was that moment that it really sounded good to me, that they're just fucking with us here. They don't care. They don't care about what they're doing.
I think they do, but they're all in service of, well, there's all kinds of things. Studio notes, toy companies. It's like, the nostalgia's good, but let's make sure we get the new little alien that works on droids, and the little guy with the multiple arms, got to get him in there. We got to make another action figure.
And I think what they should have done too, instead of awkwardly trying to fit in the previous footage of Carrie Fisher from the other films and trying to do something really awkward.
You found that awkward?
Yeah.
I thought it flowed perfectly well.
Either rewrite Lando's part, that he comes back and he's the new general, or have Wedge. If Wedge had already been there, it would have made more sense for him to step up and to take over. It would have been really great. You know? So I don't understand why it was just so weird, the decisions they made. Not only the Leia thing, but also obviously the Palpatine thing.
I thought it was really, the technology,
strange things they had to wrestle with. It's like, why did you do that?
The technology of digital recreation is still new, and it's getting there. Young Leia in Rogue One is pretty well done, and the only thing, they could have done something like that, or like what they did with young Luke in Mandalorian, but you're always in jeopardy. I thought that they went too far with when you had Peter Cushing. You have Grand Moff Tarkin, and he's physically bigger than the guy really was. It's like, he was a tiny little frail elderly British guy, and in those scenes where they've recreated him, he's sort of like towering over. I'm like, wow, Peter Cushing got big. Also, I thought it was really awkward when they had Grand Moff Tarkin start doing the dancing baby thing from Ally McBeal. I was like, guys, I know that you can make him do anything. That is my new request to all of you nerds out there, is find that 3D model they created, and please make Grand Moff Tarkin do the baby dance from Ally McBeal. Somebody out there is talented enough to do it. But they could have done something with that for just a half second if you wanted to have Leia in the background,
I think they should have done the Wakanda Forever thing and just
started with we've lost our,
because they're burdening themselves with something they can't do. It's just like, you can't pretend that she's still alive. She was gone. So that was a mistake, I thought too. But that was only one of many, many problems with that film.
There were plenty of problems. Yeah, there were plenty. I blame myself.
But so you've heard rumors that they were thinking about actually somehow trying to retcon the sequels somehow?
But that's all it is. No. It's not like coming from anyone on high. It is there's some buzz within fan community.
Yes.
That there's a consideration because, you've got Filoni and Favreau, and Kathleen Kennedy is isn't she stepping down soon or something?
There's a lot of rumors about that. Yeah.
So in new hands, there are people that feel like we can just course correct. We can just correct what went wrong. Leave the original trilogy alone, but you could tinker with the prequels. You could tinker with the sequels, and possibly just do them over.
Do them over, like actually refilm them, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, rewrite, refilm.
I wish they would, but it's going to lean heavily into CGI, I guess, at this point.
If they decide not to recast, because there's also the possibility they keep the characters and just say, well, here's your new Rey.
Yeah.
Here's your new Finn. Here's your new Poe.
There was a theory that it doesn't seem like they're doing this now, but when the Mandalorian was still fresh online, and
not like it is now. Whew.
Well, it was during the first season. There was a lot of speculation.
What is that? Oh no, the Mandalorian's gone bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, because it was just weird timing that Mandalorian premiered. Like, I think there was 2 or 3 episodes right before Rise of Skywalker came out. It was like, wow, this is great. And then Rise of Skywalker came out. I was like, wow, this is crap. But thank God we had the Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
But there was some speculation that maybe they were headed towards some kind of multiverse explanation, or how they could have the sequels be sort of explained away as a what if. What if this didn't happen? Because there's some interesting things that happen in the first season of Mandalorian where, well, what if, because in the old story, in the old canon, I think in the new canon, Kylo had been established. It had been established that he was Luke's first Padawan, or first student in the new academy. And then you see him, taking Grogu away at the end of the season,
that's right,
before Kylo had been under his tutelage.
But Grogu doesn't count because he's a weird little beast. He's a weird little beastie man.
But they did, so he was his first student, but then he drops out. We see him drop out at Book of Boba Fett. So like, damn it. So that was one. Side note, that was one decision they made with this I didn't like. It's like, I thought it was kind of cool. That's like, okay, they reached the culmination of the story's arc in season 1, and then season 2, I guess, right? Is it season 2? Throughout season 2. Yeah, season 2. That's at the end of season 2 that he goes off with Luke.
Yeah.
And I thought they kind of established that you don't need to have Baby Yoda in the series to make it an interesting show. But the first episode of the first season I thought was great. And
I wonder if, well, except for the model they're clearly leaning on is Lone Wolf and Cub.
Sure.
You've got the badass wandering Ronin with his child that he protects, but who's also weirdly capable. And it's the same format. So I think they sat there going like, oh crap, we just took away the Cub. So we need to bring that back. Plus, it is literally, I'm sure, studio and marketing, and they're like going, Jesus Christ, man, Baby Yoda's the biggest motherfucking thing. I'm not even going to call him Grogu. You may have given him a name. He's still Baby Yoda, and everyone wants him. You better put him back in that show.
Yeah.
And we could use a little bit less Amy Sedaris, who I love, but I'm like, why does he keep going back? Why does he keep going back to the same docking bay every single time? It's like, come on, enough with the comedy. The comedy that they have worked in generally is good, but also open that universe up. I don't want them going, I only know 4 people.
That's an
example.
They
got rid of Cara Dune. We're never going to see her again.
Oh, God. That's a whole other thing, yeah.
Which is a shame. The character was cool.
Yeah. But Amy Sedaris' character is a good example of how they've...
A little goes a long way.
Well, they it's like, I don't, sometimes I think that was Filoni's episode where I think he was directing the episode where she first appeared. And sometimes Filoni, and I know Filoni's new to live action, at least he was in the show. It was his first live action thing, but he does sometimes just go a little bit too far in the silly direction. And the thing with Sedaris is like, I love her as on her own.
Yeah.
But in here, she's essentially, it's clear that they were letting her improv, and she was improvising a lot of her lines. And there's that joke about dating a Jawa in those 2 episodes and Book of Boba Fett where she appears, and like, there's no way that was scripted. And they just left it in. Yeah, I did it to Jawa. Oh, it's so very hairy. Like, stop. This is not helping anything.
It's not helping.
It really isn't. And I like the whole scene, the whole idea that scene was
everything
great.
Everything they film becomes canon. So now I've read a lot of very sexy fan fiction about that encounter.
It was just way too much. But they did, like, I was kind of worried in the very first episode of that show where, what's his name? Damn it. He's the blue alien guy.
Yeah.
From SNL. I love
Horatio Sands.
Horatio Sands.
Horatio Sands. He's good.
He was good, and I was worried that he was going to be too annoying, and he really isn't. He kind of plays. He has his character. He plays his character, and then he showed. I liked him even more in the second episode he appeared in. I think in the second season.
Yeah, you would.
When they infiltrate that Imperial base.
Yeah.
He was great in that one. So it's Sedaris' character. I think they just gave her a little bit too much freedom in how she played. She just plays like the sassy waitress.
Yeah, I do think that it is when you have comic relief characters, you really just need to, a little bit, like I said, goes a long way, because I don't think The Mandalorian needs too much comedy. I just don't. Choose your moments, but it's all about that dude being a badass, and I want more of him being a badass.
Yeah. Anyway, so the theory was, as I was getting a really roundabout way to explaining this, that
you're always roundabout,
that there was a decision that was made in The Mandalorian. This was like the turning point. Like, it's like you go one way and it's the sequel. So you go another way and it's maybe a new direction where they can tell a different story for these characters. But unfortunately, it looks like they're not doing that right now because they've already said, okay, Baby Yoda's not his first student because he quit. And
I don't want a multiverse in Star Wars. What's weird is, I mean, it's just a personal preference. I love a multiverse because it's an easy out. Multiverses, to me, it's comics, and comics is not Star Wars. I do keep these things separate. It's like comics are that. It's craziness. Anything can happen. Star Wars, like you yourself said, has rules. And I do know that there have been a few flaky things, including in Clone Wars, where they indicate that Yoda had ascended to such a degree that there's some sort of Jedi ascension that goes beyond space and time. And that was one of the fan theories about Baby Yoda will actually be Yoda, having come back through, like, on a second go round through time, which would have been trippy as all fuck. But, you know, it's not necessary. That's the closest I've ever seen them in the Star Wars universe talk about bending space-time continuum as being some force connection. It's like, well, yeah, you can go beyond space and time. All right, but they stay away from that kind of stuff. Comics leans into it.
Yeah, this is where there is an exception. This is part of what this theory came from. That in Rebels, which I know you haven't watched the whole thing. There's
I haven't finished the whole thing.
They discover at some point, Ezra and his friends discover
that his hair isn't really blue.
This force construction, which is called the World Between Worlds, and it's essentially some ancient waypoint between. It's like outside of time, and he goes into this thing and he sees into the past where Ahsoka is battling Darth Vader in an earlier season of the show, and rescues her, because in that episode where she battles, there's another episode where they encounter Darth Vader on this planet, and we never find out what happens to Ahsoka after that. What happens, and then through this World Between Worlds thing, Ezra basically rescues her by pulling her through the portal, and Darth Vader, just leaves, not knowing where she went. And so they have a conversation. He says, "No, you have to look. We can go back now. We need you in the present. The current times. We've it's pretty dire. We could use your help." And Ahsoka's like, "No, you have to send me back. I can't do this. You've got to put me back where I was." But he did rescue her, so that there is time travel in canon now in Star Wars. So that was the turning point where some of these theories were like, that's where the new future is. For like, if Ahsoka dies, then we get the sequels with Starkiller Base and the First Order. But if she survives, then maybe all that can be prevented, and there's another storyline. So
I love. God, this is detailed. Just like your. They never developed microchip technology theories.
Well, this is not my theory. Yeah.
Well, I know it's not your theory, but I just love how you're on top of these things, and you know the overthinking. At the same time, those are totally acceptable ideas. And whether the people in charge of the films and the TV shows ever follow them, I love fans who will go turn themselves inside out to make shit work the way they want it to. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's the same as me sitting there going like, well, okay, what if Cavill's Superman, look, one of the things is like, did you ever read Infinite Crisis from not too long ago? That was the one that Jeff Johns did. There have been so many crises, you know, that's the whole DC thing is like, time for another big crisis. Yeah. But that was the one where Superboy Prime, who was the Superboy from our world, Earth Prime.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the 80s, they decided that the first superhero that shows up in our world is a Clark Kent who is a Superboy, but it's still our world. And he ends up preserved at the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths in the same little quantum bubble that Alexander Luthor the third, good Luthor at the end of Crisis, he created for the original Superman, Earth 2 Superman, and his aged wife, Lois Lane, because they shouldn't be wiped out of existence. So he makes it's like, I'm going to protect all of us in this little bubble, and that includes Superboy Prime. Superboy Prime in Jeff Johns' thing loses his mind because he can still watch what's happening in the DCU, and he's like, I'm trapped in here with this old man version of me, this old lady who's still dying even though we're trapped in this quantum bubble. She's on her way out, and Alexander Luthor, he's no fun. And so basically he is manipulated by outside sources who are trying to make him go crazy. He sees something terrible happen in the DCU, and he's like, no. So he starts banging on the wall of the multiverse. He starts banging on the weird bubble that they're in against the walls of it. And Jeff Johns, this is crazier than a Grant Morrison idea. Somehow the power of Superboy Prime doing that starts affecting continuity. It was Jeff Johns' way of saying that a lot of the weird shit that had happened in DC Universe continuity were because of the echo effect, that were the ripple effect of Superboy Prime beating on the wall of the multiverse. And then he breaks through into DC proper, and he's insane. So Infinite Crisis is all about Superboy Prime becoming the most powerful supervillain that's ever been, and everyone has to team up to stop Superboy Prime, including classic Superman and current DC Superman. So but I just love that as a fan theory going crazy, but that's an actual comic creator going, Superboy Prime, basically the power of his punches fucked up the time stream, fucked up continuity. Bam, bam.
So he was locked in this pocket universe just with those two other people or three other people. There was no society or civilization or anything.
Them just hanging out. I guess they didn't need to eat or whatever. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And plus he's watching, I think he watched his girlfriend from Earth Prime. He watches her die or something, or is forced away. And he's like, no, I've been stuck here. I can't do anything. And he becomes... Way to go,
Luthor.
He becomes evil. Idea. And I think at the end of it, both Supermen have to punch him through a red sun just to deplete his powers enough. And then they basically beat him to death. No, they don't beat him to death. They end up putting him in some cube prison. Jesus. And he carves because his armor's been stripped. But he was wearing the armor of the Anti-Monitor. He actually took the Anti-Monitor's armor and wore it on his own self. So that's
kind of cool.
It is a cool visual. But then the armor's been torn off. He's been subdued. They put him in some cube, and there are Green Lanterns assigned to watch his prison. They're prison guards. And it's just him. He's like, you think this is going to do anything to me? He goes, I was stuck in that crystal thing forever. He goes, I'm good with solitary. And he carves the S into his own chest. So in his bare chest, it's all very, but, what was the point? Oh, the point was just like, man, that's a batshit theory as far as like, why not just have Yoda in the place between worlds going, don't like me, no. Like
me, no.
And then takes his little wooden stick, is like, boom, 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 fixed it. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So that's why I wore the hood too, is so I could do an effective Yoda.
It's all coming together now. Yeah,
fixed it.
So you think they should just redo it without an explanation? Just tell a new story and say deal with it.
I guess they would have to explain it.
Yeah.
I mean, it does seem like a big insult to everyone who was involved in the previous, trilogy.
I don't know.
But I think most of those actors. I mean, we know that John Boyega is really pissed at how it turned out. Yeah, and we've even had Oscar Isaacson go, "Yeah, that was a wasted opportunity. I wish it had gone differently." I think Daisy Ridley is still playing the nice game to some degree, going, "Well, I'm very proud of the work we did." It's like that wishy-washy, like, I don't want to say what I really think. And we know that Mark Hamill wasn't pleased. Mm-hmm. But if you redid it, you wouldn't have Leia. Because unless they digitally replace her.
It's kind of too late now. Yeah, right.
And Harrison ain't coming back.
The thing is that Rise of Skywalker is quite amazingly, this is one of the most impressive things about the film, is that it pissed off everybody. People who love The Last Jedi, people who hated The Last Jedi, people who were on the fence about Last Jedi, all hated this movie.
John,
unfortunately, it did kind of bring us together.
John, in his secret dreams, he wishes that Rise of Skywalker was a physical, living person, specifically male, so that he could walk up to it and knee it in the balls.
Okay. So that's one thing we agree with.
Excuse me, are you Rise of Skywalker? Why, yes. Oh! So
that is one thing he agrees with you on as being
well, actually, I'm nicer on that movie, even though it's terrible. I'm nicer to it, even though I know all the things it did wrong. It still wraps up a story in a way. But he will never watch that thing again. Whereas I've got the Blu-ray. I don't know.
I even bought. I wasn't a huge fan of Last Jedi, but I did buy that or watched it many times. Because there were a lot of scenes in it that I love.
Yeah, this good stuff,
including the Phantom Skywalker thing. The battle on Crate.
Badass, man. Brushing the dust off his shoulder. That's total samurai movie. Love it.
It is great. Yeah, I love the whole thing. I love it.
But anyway, we should wrap this up because we've talked 85 hours and I'm starving.
It's always how these shows end. I have to eat. What are you doing to me?
Well, here's the thing. Because of like your body gets into habits and rhythms. When I worked at the bookstore pre-COVID years, I always had my lunch at 2. And since we start at 2:30 and I've usually already had the chat with the producers meeting, I have yet to eat it all today. And it's now like 4:19 and I'm like going, hungry.
I'm pretty much on the same. Yeah.
Please don't put that on the. Can you edit that out?
I'm going to start the show with that.
Hungry.
All right.
I like when you do pull weird non sequitur stuff to start the show. I like that's pretty great, Chad.
Yeah, thank you.
It also means you had to go back and listen to the whole thing.
Well, I think of it while I'm editing it, so that's where I get those. So it's useful. I kind of got that idea from Double Toasted, their channel. They before each clip, they show you something from the middle of it to kind of get you interested in where it's going.
Yeah, that's a smart idea.
I love that channel too. Anyway.
Yeah. All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
See you
God
bless.
Next time. Right. God bless America.
Oh, wait. I'm going to hit stop.
Oh, wait. You don't love America? Is that what I'm hearing?
I do.